Well, welcome back. It's Train Tuesday. I'm your host, Jim Wigan, and well, it's just another cold day on the prairie out here. Man, I think with the wind, it's about negative something. Anything below zero is cold. So it's a good day to just come on inside and hang out at the station and talk trains. I have got a full show for you guys today with a lot of special guests. But before we get started, I want to do what we always do. I want to get some shout outs going on. So who do we have in today? We've got West Coast Railfan looking for Southern Pacific. We got Kevin. Welcome aboard, Kevin. We got Kyle. We got Zach. Welcome back, Zach. Oh, we got Ezekiel. We've got Train Fan Jonathan. Man, we've got all the locals here. We've got some regulars. We've got some new folks too. So if this is your first time being on Train Tuesday with me, welcome aboard. What we do here is we talk about all things cool and awesome under the name of Athearn Trains. We bring to you stuff that's available right now for pre-order, and then we kind of let you know what's coming around the horizon and what's actually at your dealer's shelves. So get some more folks on here before we get rolling. We've got Carolina, we got Townie, we got Terry. Hey, Terry. We got Daniel. We got Greg from New York City. We've got, let's see, who else we got? We got Anthony. I don't know if I got Anthony or not. We got Greg. JT Railfan. All right. So we got some great people showing up. Rick Simpson, welcome back. He's from the great state of Texas. We've got John Hill, and we got Mark. We've got everybody I think we need to get started and talk trains. So now what I wanted to do this week was, as many of you already know, it is the 75th anniversary for Athearn. And, you guys get to see Janik and myself here quite a bit, but I wanted to introduce you to some of the behind the scenes type of work that happens at Athearn. And I've told you many, many times that, at Athearn, not everybody, but a large percentage of the employees here at Athearn are model railroaders like you, whether it be HO or N scale. This is what we do as well as for work. And what I want to do is I want you to get introduced to some of the guys that make all of this possible. I've got the easy job. I just come on camera and I talk about it and I put it out on social media, and I get to talk with you guys at train shows and things of that nature. But I'm going to show you the guys that do the heavy lifting. And today I want to introduce you to somebody from product development, and his name is Jack Ross. I'm going to bring him up here for you. Hey, Jack, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. What's the weather like on the other side of the country?
Well, it's actually cloudy and about mid to 60s or so. So,
Wow.
Typical California weather.
I think I'd rather suffer in California than be in Illinois.
Yeah.
So Jack, you work at Athearn in product development. Tell us a little bit about how long you've been with Athearn, a little bit about your job, and then tell us a little bit more about you.
Well, been with Athearn for about a year and a half. Been into model trains since 93, 94, when I was in my early teens. And way before I had a driver's license, I used to beg my dad to, take me train watching and all that. But yeah, do a little bit of everything with the job, which I really enjoy. Hands are on as far as product development, checking models, samples from the factory, making sure all of the paint is the way it's supposed to be, the right color, the right font, all the way to actually researching, really complicated projects, Genesis and stuff like that, which can take anywhere up to a week on even one road name, depending on how much information we have. So, yeah, it's been a lot of fun. It's definitely been a dream job compared to selling auto parts, which I used to do. So,
yeah, that's right. You and I come back from an automotive background, so that's pretty cool. Now, one of the things that I tried telling not only our fans here on the page, but the folks that I work with outside of Athearn is the amount of research that it takes. Now, most people know I used to do a lot of custom painting a while ago, and I can tell you, if you saw the library off to my left, it is just filled with books on the prototype. And I know how much research and time it took just to do one locomotive from one particular era, but you guys every month are doing that on multiple locomotives and multiple paint schemes and multiple eras. That has got to be overwhelming at best.
Oh, that's an understatement. Especially when it comes to stuff we honestly, and yes, I'm sorry, you guys, we don't know everything. I know sometimes we get told that, but luckily we have a lot of really cool resources. We have an online server with tons of photos. We've got lots of books, lots of magazines. And then we also have a lot of people outside that really help us with, artwork and photos and stuff that we just can't find. Because not all of it is easily available. Some of it is really, really hard to find. So we're really lucky for that. And so, yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, I imagine, with a lot of things, one of the things that I think a lot of modern guys kind of take for granted is, here we've got a BNSF locomotive beside me. It's pretty easy to get the DuPont paint codes for, BNSF orange, but when you're dealing with a railroad that may have been gone for 40 to 60 years, and you're only working with maybe museums, or I know we work a lot with historical societies and things of that nature. That's going to be pretty difficult as well, getting all that research for older fallen flags.
Oh yeah, especially if it's something that lasted in the paint scheme for a few years, or just something that just seemed to evade photographers for some reason. It gets really tough.
Now, one of the other things that we talk about, and Jack, I know you're an SP fan, and you and I have talked off camera. Yeah, I mean, SP, I've said it on Train Tuesday before. It's such a captivating road, but one of those things about the SP is they would take delivery of a locomotive, and as time would go on, things would get added, things would get taken off. Paint schemes would change ever so slightly. That's going to be a bunch of research on your part.
Oh yeah, especially some locomotives to where they accidentally mismatch doors, so the name can say something completely different. It doesn't say Southern Pacific. Some, they put one light on and took one off and rearranged it on one end, but not the other. It was all over the place. Some had different types of plows. Even sometimes the paint variances were slightly off. So they were all over the place. But no, I grew up with it towards the end, and that's where I fell in love with it. So
yeah, it really is a fun hobby, and I've done a lot of things in my experience as far as jobs. As much fun as I had working for a dealership, this is a little bit better. I don't have to go out in that -7 and try to sell a Super Duty to somebody. But it's a lot of fun. Now I'm seeing some comments here, and I want to address those real quick.
okay.
Brad, I did not see your question about the SD70M-2s, but if you hang around for a little bit, we'll have Q&A at the end of the show, and I'm sure we can answer that question for you. Dave, I see your question there too, and his question is, do you guys just do pre-order? We do a lot on pre-order. We do it just like the real full-scale railroads do. When EMD said we're going to start producing a GP40-2, SP, Boston and Maine, and Western Pacific, they ponied up and they bought them. So we kind of do the same thing. But to answer your question, if you go to your local hobby shop, or if you've got an online retailer that carries Athearn, we do have things in stock all the time. And if you stick around, I've got some neat stuff to show you. It'll be in stock shortly, and it's in stock now. So just want to get those out for everybody. And by the way, while I'm looking at the comments, if you've got a question for Jack, this is about the product development process, specifically not on a specific locomotive per se.
If it's SP, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'll be watching for the comments here, Jack. And now you had mentioned that, not only is this your career, but it's your passion and it's your hobby as well.
Yes, sir.
So I've got some pictures that you had sent me, and I'm going to go ahead and get ready to share those here with everybody. And let's see. Now, how long have you been modeling, Jack?
Probably about the mid 90s. I mean, I picked up all the old Athearn blue box stuff and, put all the handrails on myself and then started really venturing off into super detailing and putting in light packages that weren't, commercially available straight from the box type of thing. And then got myself an airbrush just as I got out of high school. I had an art teacher that gave me his old airbrush and started painting and doing decal work and stuff like that. So it just gradually picked up as I went and, learned things along the way.
That's great. I want to show everybody your pictures. And by the way, you're getting some shout outs from our fans. They're thanking you for your work and answering some questions that you answered some folks. I'm going to bring this up. You got some great work. And by the way, your weathering is really nice.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. I want to make sure we can see that okay. Let's see, everybody can see that okay? Great. So what I'm going to do is, Jack, I'm going to go through these and tell us a little bit about this. I mean, obviously, we got some Southern Pacific power here.
Yes. I'm not going to lie. These aren't Athearn products, so I apologize ahead of time. But the two Jeep 40s are Atlas models that I painted and decaled. The cotton belt unit up front had all the door replacements on them on the battery box doors. Put LED lights in them. I put Athearn fuel tanks on them, which look a lot better in my opinion. The slug is one of those resin shells. There's a guy on eBay that sells them. So I ended up getting an old Stewart U25B chassis and put a Genesis motor in it, and it runs really well with the three. One of these days I'll put sound in them, but as of right now they have non-sound DCC. But yeah, that was a fun project. That definitely gets some gets some eyes turning when I run that set. I
bet, yeah. Now here's a great example of your weathering. This looks like it's been putting in some hard labor.
Yep. I model the end of '95. So a lot of the inspiration I got, the locomotives are really faded, lettering peeling off. Some of them you can't even tell who the owner is anymore. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. A lot of it, a lot of airbrush, a lot of acrylic paint and powders and that type of stuff, and just a lot of it's tested. This isn't one of my favorites. I did send you a few of others that I believe personally I did a much better job on, but
okay.
But yeah, this one I'll enjoy.
All right, you got another. Yeah, I see what you mean by saying you can't tell who might be the owner of this one. That's pretty neat.
Yeah. So yeah, that one came out pretty well. I was pretty impressed. Yeah, and that's my
nice.
My on its last legs SD39.
Okay. We got a demonstrator Jeep 60. That looks really nice.
Yeah, that one's a Proto 2000 that I got that was needed a lot of TLC when I bought it. And there's a guy through Shapeways that makes the correct cab and nose and dynamic brake for it for a phase one. So I ended up doing that, and matching the paint was not easy, but luckily the weathering of dirting it up kind of matched everything. And yeah, I'm pretty proud on how that one came out.
Very nice. Well, that's a great shot here. We've seen this in some of the Athearn social media pictures. Now, this is your club layout, correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I belong to the Highland Pacific Model Railroad Society out of San Gabriel, California. It's actually one of the oldest, if not the oldest, model club. I think we just got to our 70th anniversary. And now that's an organization, not necessarily the layout age, but it is pretty old. All hand-laid track. As you can see, the scenery is really well done. A lot of our club members are very passionate about getting our layout to look as realistic as possible. And it's really a lot of fun.
Very nice. You've got some more work done here on this unit here. Now, is this an older Athearn, or what kind of a kit bash was this?
This is a ready-to-roll Jeep 40X. Actually, both of them are. And I used photos of them in the 90s to kind of represent on what they looked like as far as just them being beaten and battered by the sun and, you know, and the elements. So that was something I tried on these.
Very nice. Looks like you got a little patchwork on the cab. Was there a renumbering in this process at some point?
This was an interesting one. The photos I found, it looks like either one of the crews or somebody just cleaned off the numbers, and so they could see it. So I kind of mimicked that on this particular model. But yeah, it looks like they didn't care about what was on the long hood, but they definitely want to make sure what number it was.
That's a neat detail to pick out. That's where those pictures come in handy. Oh yeah, very nice. This one looks shiny and new compared to the other ones you've been working on.
Yeah, we got another one of our guys, research guys, that has been bugging me and bugging me and bugging me. He wants this unit really bad. This was an Atlas unit that I stripped completely down, redid it. It was very frequent from videos I found. It was leased to the SP in the mid-90s. The photos I found of it, it was up in the, I believe, the San Francisco area. And so, you know, with SP and needing anything they can get their hands on, including lease power, it was something that I wanted to have. And so it hasn't gone through the weathering process yet, although it was pretty clean. But yeah, that was a model I recently finished up.
Oh, hey, this is cool.
Yeah, this was another project that needed a lot of TLC. I bought it off of a buddy of mine where he tried adding a thin wall cab to it. One of the, I can't remember the manufacturer who makes it off the top of my head, but it was battered, needed help. And I figured, hey, what better way to make a B unit out of a unit that not only in its real life had an accident with its cab, but even in model form. So, so yeah, I kitboshed it, the front end of it, to represent the one and only B unit that Cotton Belt / SP had in their GEs, and yeah, weathered the crap out of it to make it look like it's tired, and I will eventually put sound in it, but that's also a good looker when we have people come by the club and take a look.
Very nice. You know, I've said before on this show that, you know, even though I'm a New Englander, there's something about that Southern Pacific. It's simple, but it's elegant at the same time. It's a really nice paint scheme, and the lettering is nice. And this definitely looks like something, when you think of the Southern Pacific, this is what you think of. This is really nice.
This one is also a little special. This is also somewhat of a home build. I started with a Athearn ready-to-run SD45, and the history on these, I don't remember how many SP had that were like this way. It wasn't many. I think it was around 20, but they were ex C&Ws, which originally had no dynamic brakes, and I guess the long hoods went to a different project from another railroad, so they put GP40 rear ends on them. So they almost look like an SD45-2, almost, but they're very odd looking. So yeah, so I used an Atlas Jeep 40 rear end and put it all together, painted it up, and yeah, so I'm really happy with how that one came out too.
Very nice. Now you got some Rio Grande stuck in there too.
Well, I have to. I modeled SP in the 90s. I have to.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, I'm proud on how that one came out too. But yeah, that's one of my eventually Tehachapi style mountain locomotives that I was working on too.
Very cool. Yeah, nicely done with the faded out with scarlet and red. It's almost faded out to a pinkish hue. Very nice.
Yeah, that's my favorite. I really am proud on how that one came out, and yeah, I'm excited to run that on some other club layouts if I get the opportunity. That one I'm very proud of.
Yeah, no, as well you should be. Very nice. Well, there we go. We got some Santa Fe in there too. Now this is a little bit earlier than the 90s.
Yeah, actually, that goes back to I think the mid '80s, I believe. It was another wreck rebuild. But I do dabble in some Santa Fe. It's mainly my dad's fault because my dad loves the Santa Fe. So whenever we'd go train watching, it wasn't just the SP. We also saw a lot of Santa Fe and UP stuff. So it's another one of those head turners, something different that I'd love to just throw in a consist. So that was a fun build too.
Yeah, no, that's definitely, that paint scheme, the old billboard paint scheme is what it reminds me of. It's kind of a combination of paint schemes, the billboard of the late 60s, early 70s, and then kind of when they started doing the war bonnet in blue and yellow, that font's a lot bigger. But that's a neat prototype you got there. So
thank you.
Very cool. Well, thanks for sharing those with us. I'm looking at the comments out there, and a lot of guys are liking what you've been working on. And it's always, it's one of those things where years ago I heard somebody say, never trust a skinny cook. And it makes sense. You don't want to go to a restaurant and the guy's skinny. He's not eating his own food. I feel better if he's got something like me. And this kind of goes with you too. I mean, you not only do you go to work every day and doing the work for everybody else, but you go home and you get to do it for yourself. And you're the cook and the researcher at this point. So it's really nice to know that we've got guys like you and back there doing all this hard work. And sometimes I think you guys get buried under all those books and papers trying to find those details. But
it feels that way at times, believe me. It feels that way.
I want to check. I think we've got somebody. Let's see.
I did see one comment about a guy asking if I model Kodachrome as well. Yes, I do. I do have quite a few models. I just don't have them in photos. But yes, I have not forgotten Kodachrome. Yeah,
I think that's pretty much everybody in the office likes Kodachrome, I think. I mean, I still think it's cool.
There's one in particular you and I both know that lives and breathes Kodachrome.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I think I know. It rhymes with panic. Well, Jack, I'm gonna, if you don't mind, I'm gonna let you go. Now, a little bit later, we're gonna do some rail fanning and Q&A. If you want to stick around for that, come on back for that. You're more than welcome to. And
sure.
We're getting some really good comments out here. They're saying great work. So yeah, I mean, it makes me feel a lot better to know how much work and effort and research goes in. And Jack, I mean, in the product development team, obviously it's not just you. How many other folks are working in product development on any given day?
Well, there's 3 of us total that do about 90% of the work. It's the projects are split between the 3 of us. So sometimes we either will take one locomotive or one type of freight car and do all the railroads between the 3 of us, or sometimes we get the whole, management stack of papers that just slams down on your desk saying, hey, I need to do all these railroads on this particular locomotive. So we get a little bit of everything, but it is fun. It's one of the things to where you get to listen and to other people's comments and things, and you find out things about these that you never even knew. You didn't know that they had this type of bell arrangement or this type of coloring, or and you learn a lot about it. It's been a huge learning experience for me, and I really enjoy it.
Yeah, well, that's true. And I think anybody, a serious model railroader, prototype modeler will tell you, you never really stop learning. No. There's so much information out there for our hobby based on the prototype that, there are a few experts, but they're pretty much just experts on their road or their era to have to know everything. So a lot of research, a lot of learning, a lot of challenges, but we really do appreciate everything you and the team do for us, Jack. And like I said, my wife might not appreciate it as much because I don't have a paycheck. But
Well, don't
I've got a
feel
lot
too
of
bad.
co-authors.
My wife is in ear distance as well, so
Oh,
I have
okay.
to be. Yeah, I have to be careful on what I say about what I pre-order. So yeah.
Well, no doubt what we're going to bring up next is something you'll probably want to have in an order pretty soon. But I'm going to let you go for a little bit, Jack, and we'll catch up with you in a little bit later. Everybody that's out there, Jack has agreed to stay with us for a little bit to do some Q&A. So we'll see you in probably about a half an hour or so. Sound good, Jack?
Sounds good to me.
All right, Jack, thanks for coming on board, and we'll see you in a little bit.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Now, I am seeing some folks out there commenting that the internet connection does not look good. I've had one or two people say that. If you could just kind of give me a shout out there saying you're doing okay. Now, there's been some reports of some internet problems throughout the country. There is some weather that's going on out in the West. When I talked to my previous guest, we weren't having too many issues, but I'll keep a track of it. If the sound or the quality goes bad, we can always try to re-upload later. So next thing I want to talk about, I've got more guests too. I've got some great guests lined up for you today because it's always fun to see what people are working on and what type of things are going on. Now, Tony Cook is definitely no stranger to Train Tuesday. He was here last week, and he said that he had some more stuff for us because he found out what we're going to be talking about today. And not only did Tony stop by, but we have got a special guest from Railroad Model Craftsman. So I want to bring on Harry K. Wong first.
Hey guys.
Hey Harry, how you doing?
Great, doing good.
And let's see if I can find Tony. If I can push the right button right. Here we go. There we go.
Hey.
Tony, how's it going?
Hey, yay, Tony.
Doing good, doing good. We finally got Harry on the show. I think.
Yeah, you know what? I'm surprised.
I've been Mr. Elusive.
Yeah.
Well, we will definitely have you on again at some point too, Harry. We don't want it to be a one and only and we're done type of thing.
Oh, well,
But,
it's an honor to be here. I've always kind of tuned in and typed madly all my questions, so it's nice to be here point blank, and I can pigeonhole you right here, Jim. So
Excellent.
maybe not today. I'll be nice today. I'll try to be.
You'll be nice today. Okay. Yeah, it's going to be, as long as it doesn't turn into like Crossfire, one of those.
Yeah.
Tony
and I already decided what we're going to do, so yeah.
So for those who don't know, and I find it hard to believe that they don't know, but just in case, Harry, tell us who you are, who you write for, and a little bit about the magazine.
Well, my name's Harry Wong, and I work as an associate editor out here for Railroad Model Craftsman magazine. All of us at White River Productions, including Tony, we're fairly well distributed throughout the country. We're not in one fixed location, so you can't get us all in one place, except maybe at a trade show, perhaps, and even then. Railroad Model Craftsman is a hobbyist magazine for model railroading, of course, and we go a little bit beyond the basics, beyond just opening the box, but we also talk about projects, how we super detail locomotives in particular, layout features. We feature layouts every month. We feature structure builds. We also review a little bit of products here and there too, and like Tony, but Tony goes way more in depth over at Model Railroad News, and he's got a great publication there, who's our sister publication. So every now and then my name shows up over at Tony's and vice versa over here at RMC. So it's a joy to work for RMC. It's a great privilege, let me tell you, because we can actually eat, sleep, breathe, and live trains, and actually get put some bread on the table for dinner for it. So it's a good thing. It's a huge blessing, and I enjoy it every day.
Yeah, that's a great feeling to have. You get to a job. I've had a lot of different jobs over my lifetime, and a lot of them have been fun. But there's very few where you get to share your passion with everybody else, and that's a great thing. And I mean, RMC. I mean, that's a magazine that goes back a long time. One of the older hobby magazines out there. You know, I remember, you'll laugh now, my first project was with an Athearn caboose. And I think it was an old Bill Schomburg article on updating it for the 80s. And by taking all the glass out and putting little pieces of plastic in to make the, when the FRA basically was trying to make the glass ballistic proof. And that probably goes back to 86, 87. I'm not sure when, but it's a magazine that was always one of my favorites. And of course, Tony, we know you're with Model Railroad News. How long have you been with the magazine?
Me? I'm 10 years with Model Railroad News in June, and then we're 5 years in for HO Collector Quarterly.
Wow.
And Harry started with me at Model Railroad News. I know he'd been in other magazines before, but I asked him to join me, and I forget what our first review was that we did.
I don't even remember. It's been so many now.
I know. I can't remember what, but I know.
I was honored when you called me. It's like, write something? Yeah, I could do that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And one thing kind of leads to another, as it does in the hobby, when you get together talking about things like, I thought Jack's work was good, but for SP, were they too clean?
No.
Really? You thought they were dirty enough?
I've got a lot to say about that, and I'll save it for my section. But honestly, people remember the Southern Pacific of the 1990s more than they do of the 1970s and 60s and 50s when the SP was at its high point. Of course, it declined a little bit in the 80s, certainly after the Santa Fe got done with us. It wasn't a happy story until probably the early 90s when the new power arrived around 94 or so. So, but it's interesting. There's a lot to see for SP.
It's a neat time for the SP in the 90s. And as you say, so many people do. What was it? October 88 is when Anschutz and the SP take over. Or Rio Grande take over the SP, which is kind of that odd backwards of, that little railroad in Colorado and Utah took over the Southern Pacific, and Cotton Belt. But, that's how that went. But again, I think, those later years of SP, when they're basically rebuilding everything in sight and, have so much kind of just dog power, and the poor Rio Grande was pulling everything out of Burnham and uncapping it and putting it to work for the SP because of their power stuff, that's an awful neat time for the road. And
yeah, it was a great time to be a rail fan because you just didn't know what you'd see trackside. It was not just rental ruts, but there was new power mixed in. Oftentimes the hot shots would come through with something super shiny, and then you get anything but on the next train. So, and then you get all the SD9s, and it's pretty classic stuff.
It's neat stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of that. Jim disappeared for a minute, and Jim, I'm happy to tell you we announced several new Genesis projects that Harry and I have said
great.
To do. So,
well, I'm hoping that you get that main narrow gauge thing that you've wanted for 20 years. I'm sure Janet would love to work on that. No, we were getting reports from some of our fans out there that they saw that the feed was looking a little fuzzy, and I'm not sure if it was a Microsoft update or if it was something to do with our local grid, but I went into the ether for a minute. But I'm glad we got some new models that we're coming out with.
And we're going to talk some tunnel motors today.
Yeah,
we're going to talk some tunnel motors. Yeah, definitely. So let me share some my screen here with you guys. And Tony, I know you brought from the esteemed collection of Kevin U. Daly some really cool pictures, so we'll kind of piggyback on those. Let's see what we've got here.
It's always exciting when you guys announce things, because one of the first things I do is start digging through Kevin's collection of, do we have that road number? Do we have it in that era? So it's always fun to find. And I did find a number of Rio Grande and SP shots for us today that are both the model you're doing or close to it, or show some things that could be done with the model.
Mm-hmm.
And boy,
definitely.
Isn't that an amazing group, Harry? With I can't believe that Roseville repaint. I remember seeing.
Those things were in our backyard. I'm in Northern California, and it was great to see those after years and years of, just non-shiny paint. I'll just say, and to have a bunch of SP partisans there at Roseville, and they don't even have a paint shop in Roseville, but they managed to paint those things, and it was a great thing until it caught management's eye, shall we say.
It literally looks like somebody was painting. It's like, oh, I cut all the Southern Pacifics out of that microscale sheet. All I have are all the little SPs for the nose. Well, I just toss them on the long hood too.
Right. I suspect they didn't have the stencil. Otherwise, you'd probably see the stencil.
So I have got some pictures too of some of these, but let's go through the actual models first, and then we'll talk a little bit more about it. Now, Tony and here, I heard you talking about these Rossville repaints. Tell us a little bit about that. There's a little story here.
Oh, and the Roseville, yeah, I think that was just the shops, and as Harry said, they were not a regular painter. And as you look through SP stuff, there's all kinds of, there's a few units, I think there may be 4 axles that got Southern Pacific in the wrong typeface on the long hood. I mean, SP was one that there's all kinds of things that, and I can't imagine seeing like Union Pacific or Santa Fe or anybody with a unit looking quite like some of the SP things that came out, but it's part of the allure of the railroad, I think, is that.
You had some pretty unique paint jobs too after the merger with SP, I'll just say. So
exactly.
Yeah, I would beg to differ just slightly there. Santa Fe, they had their appearances, and they had their pink bonnets too. So, everybody's got their own. Speaking
of interesting paint schemes, now we'll start with the 90s era. When we had Jack on board, he's a model of the SP of the 90s. Might be some influence here. We've got these offered in Prime for Grime, which is perfect because man, these things did not stay bright and shiny for long.
And I think on the SP tunnel motors, Harry, wasn't it like Rio Grandes are all 88-inch nose, but SP bought 116, and then that one's 120.
Yeah, 3 different nose lengths on their SD40 tunnel motors. The snoots that everybody knows with the big long nose that makes them look a little bit like a PA or something, they came in 2 nose lengths. The first order, 8300 to 06, 8350 to 56, had 116-inch long noses with ratchet brakes in the nose. The subsequent snoots, which are the majority of them, they landed in 1978 and 1979, and by then, the Federal Road Administration implemented clean cab standards. What that means is they removed all the extemporaneous equipment inside the cab that might hurt crewmen during a severe derailment and stuck it inside the nose. Well, the nose wasn't long enough, even at 116. So at 81 inches for the short nose, so they lengthened each nose, whether it be 81 or 116, another 7 inches. So the 81-inch nose became 88. The 116 nose became 123, and that's how most of the 8300s became on the SP. SP also had medium length nose, in other words, the 88-inch nose, short nose versions from not 81s, but 88s, the lengthened versions of the short nose for their 8500 class and 8489 class SD40 tunnel motors, the ones that didn't have the radio control equipment in the nose, which necessitated the super long nose like the 116 or the 123. So long story short, that's pretty much how it is. Long story long.
And it's like, as Harry said, that's, I think, unique to SP, and what there were 10 cotton belt SD40T-2s.
Yeah, it's 8322 to 26 and 8372 to 76. Those had 123s with the brake wheel in the nose, kind of like that 8370 that we're seeing here that Athearn's going to be releasing soon. So yeah, they're pretty similar to the SP snoots, except they didn't have a rear plow. Later on in life, during the late 80s, or mid 80s, I should say, SP removed the majority of the rear plows on their 8300s. The 8500s never had the rear plow, but we'll talk about the 8489s pretty soon.
Now, to kind of go back a little bit, you guys were talking paint schemes and unique paint schemes and being all over the place. I'm going to throw something out here too. David Green, him and I are going to represent the Midwest on you guys. As far as paint schemes and weird stuff, Rock Island says, hold my beer.
Yes. Yeah.
Definitely had weird paint schemes.
Oh, yeah. That is where
Now,
you get the term of like a dog's breakfast motive power consist, where it's all different kind of units, all different kind of paint schemes, mixed up doors, oil and grime running down the sides. That's Rock Island, classic stuff.
So we're gonna kind of scroll down here a little bit. Now we've shown you the prototype versions of the Southern Pacific. Tony, tell me a little bit about this, because now this particular unit right here is part of our legendary liveries. Now what that means is that paint scheme is real, but it was never applied to this locomotive, but there's a but there. And Tony, this we're going to show a picture of this later, but tell us a little bit, this isn't exactly fantasy, is it?
I mean, yes and no. That's the one thing I like. And first off, these legendary liveries, they're killing me. I mean, it's maxing out my credit cards here. Between those Western Pacific FP45s, I got the Pepsi can ES44. I mean, you drag me into all these so easily. It's too much for me. But this one, and Harry would know more on this than me, but I think it's the late 70s. Of all things, SP, they had Black Widow, and they played with the Black Widow and Bloody Nose scheme back around 1960 a little bit. There's like some of what they call them the Halloween or pumpkin units with some orange and black. And then in the late 70s, they had, what was it, MK in Idaho rebuilt those U-25Bs.
Right.
And gave them that awesome scheme that's in the neighborhood of this, but this is based on, and I think, Jim, I gave you a shot. It's a one-of-a-kind, SD40R?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's based on the 7342, which was an SD40R, but there was also SP had an SD45 that was also rebuilt and repainted into this paint scheme. What they did with that SD45 was instead of the 20-cylinder prime mover that was in that locomotive, they swapped it out or chopped it down to a 16-cylinder locomotive, and they called it an SD44R.
Oh, cool.
And it looks just like an SD45 on the outside, but they stuck the rear light package on when they rebuilt it. And it was indeed in this paint scheme along with the 7342. The 7342, which was the SD40R, wore three different, I'm losing count, but it was like three different versions of daylight. And this was the final experimental daylight version that the SD40R wore, as well as the SD44R, the 7399. And so there were two locomotives that SP actually had in this paint scheme that actually ran around. And they actually, when the 4449, the GS4 daylight locomotive came around, these were often assigned as the helpers behind the daylight steam engine, the GS4 484 that was the excursion engine that Joel McCormack likes to run back in the good old days. And we'd wish we could have that back on our rails, but be that the new owner of the railroad doesn't really permit that sort of thing. So, but anyway, so this daylight scheme showed up, I think, I want to say around 83 or so. We didn't have it before then. So that's about when it appeared. I think it's like 82, 83, somewhere in that range.
And when they were playing with those schemes, Harry, didn't they even do one that each side had a slightly different color band or lettering?
Exactly. When the 7342 first came out, and Athearn released the second version of the 7342 in the past, it had one side was completely orange, including just half the roof. If you got up on a drone, if we had drones back then, you could look right down the center line of the locomotive, and half the fans on one side would be gray, and the other half would be orange right down to the walkway.
Wow.
And including the top of the nose. And I know Janik and gang and I guess your development crew did a great model of the 7342, but it was only after Athearn did the version where they standardized the roof to be gray on both sides. So here's where I pigeonhole Jim. Please have you guys and Jack, please do the 7342 half and half, the half face version. That would really be great. So
well, it's been a while, so that's a possibility.
Yeah, I mean, you guys did it right down the top of the nose, where half the nose was gray and half was orange, and that's perfect. Just keep going over the top. You guys did a great job the first time around. I'd love to see it again, but this time truly half and half, and I think you would really get a lot of flex after it.
I'm going to have to dig mine out now. I may actually have to take it out of the box and look at that. I didn't
It's been a little bit. Now, we can't have the SD40T-2 without the Rio Grandes either.
Oh,
we got to have these guys. And then, of course, the wheeling in Lake Erie. because I wonder where they got their locomotives from.
Yeah.
And
I wonder who their mechanical officer was either. I wonder what road he came from, huh?
So now these are not legendary liveries. These are based on the prototype, and we'll show all you guys out there some of the pictures that we've got of these. But man, again, little northeastern guy here. That Rio Grande was a classy paint scheme, simple but classy.
Oh, it's great. And the Rio Grandes had, I think, all of the Southern Pacific 40T-2s and cotton belts. The anti-climber on the back was standard across all three of the roads because of the length. On the front, Rio Grande's early order, like this one, is a 1974 Phase 1. It's got an 81-inch nose, which the Rio Grande never had, like the locomotive control and the things Harry mentioned. So there's no snoot noses on the Rio Grande. But and they also, this first order has the turned down kind of standard coupler cut levers and 81-inch nose and no anti-climber up front, which puts it in this group that was 5341 to 5355. They had 15 of these that came in 74. They were Rio Grande's first. And, the development on the tunnel motor, Rio Grande and SP were very much in partnership. These came in the 70s. But it kind of goes back to what the Krauss-Maffei project with the diesel hydraulics in 61. They wanted more horsepower, and then we're running into the overheating problem, and they put ductwork on those German diesel hydraulics to, bring the air intake down lower. And then was it the SD45X, and then some of the SD45s, late ones around 1970, Harry, they put elephant ears on some SPs, again, right, which to suck in the cooler air lower. And
right.
Then,
they did that right before they went to the tunnel motor design.
Right.
The SD45Xs, they had 3 of them, I believe, and there were 7 SD45Xs that ever existed. 3 of them had elephant ears fitted for testing over Donner Pass, over the Sierra. There were photos of one run, and I don't think we've ever seen them in the wild on anywhere other than that one run. So they probably just had them on for the weekend or for a couple of weeks at most, and that was it. So, and then the final design is the SD45 tunnel motor, and then later on in 1974, that's when the Rio Grande and SP decided to go for some 16 cylinders, and so we have 40 tunnel motors.
And I think wasn't some of that decision, because like Rio Grande had 45s, SP bought a ton of 45s.
Yeah.
Was it at the higher altitudes, and as they'd overheat, you'd lose, they'd get limits on that extra 600 horsepower either didn't kick in because of the overheating would limit the RPMs or something. I remember reading that in where I get, you too can be an expert on all things motive power if you just got a whole set of diesel eras. And this is a great, like this, if you're looking, it's July, August of 2002, does Rio Grande. And then I also was looking at the SPs, and they were covered in 2 issues in 2008. And tons of pictures, lots of info, those kind of things. If you're a modeler, I think diesel era is a must to have all that stuff. The other thing on the
internet searches, they'll come up with stuff too, but diesel era puts it in a good way. So there's a slight lettering variation on these. I don't know if we can zoom in there, Jim, to the back above the air intakes at the end of the long hood, but they were delivered without road numbers, but it was quickly stenciled on. Now, from the second order on through the 5th, they all had standard road numbers put on there from the beginning, but I hadn't looked at this close. So we'll see. It should be, they were added right after they were delivered for this order, and they're stenciled road numbers in the back. Yeah, there we go. They're there.
And they're there. So again, if you want to be really hard line on how they came from LaGrange, there was no number back there, but Rio Grande almost immediately added it. And these had the ratchet style brake in the nose,
right,
which go to brake wheel, I think, by maybe the 3rd order.
Yeah, when they went to the 8-inch nose, that's when the brake wheel showed up.
Yeah.
So
and now this wheeling, going by its Rio Grande, I assume isn't it, Harry? 5391 is just its Rio Grande number. They've kept it.
I think they've kept it. They just added wheeling and Lake Erie, sublettering, I want to say. It's just right up the number there.
So that makes it a 4th order tunnel motor, which those were the ones that had the box light.
Exactly. They had a Mars light
Mhm.
that was, for some reason, EMD decided to just build a box and slap it over the front as opposed to carving out an indent, a recess on the top of the nose for the gyro light or the Mars light.
See, even EMD got tired of getting out the file and filing down those blue box shells and putting the Details Western Associate light package.
That was fun back then.
And they finally said to Rio Grande, look, we're going to put the light on front of the nose. And then they did talk them back into it, though, for the fifth order. Now, this, of course, is later, and that box light is removed, and you've got ditch lights up on the pilot. So all correct for how it would look later on in life. And then that one's not a Rio Grande. That's a UP repaint, but of an SP going by its number. That what originally was an SP.
Athearn's going to put the light bracket on the back that's blank except for the dual headlight, dual beam headlight down below, mounted horizontally, as opposed to vertically, which is what you see in the back end of the Rio Grande locomotives.
Okay. Yeah, so it's interesting to see, where these, like before I had you guys on, I had Jack, and we were talking about, in the old days when a lot of us did our own custom painting and things of that nature, how much research you had to do just on one locomotive for one era. And this is a good example of how many different paint schemes the guys have come up with. But as you guys are pointing out, as you guys are talking, it's definitely back from not like the old days where it's just the same locomotive model painted in different colors. You can see the different details the guys are putting on there.
Yeah.
I think it's, it's surprising too, as hard as these worked on both the SP and the Rio Grande and the miles they had, these tunnel motors just seem to have, they did not retire. I mean, again, they went to Wheeling and Lake Erie. You guys are also doing Ohio Central.
That's the next one, actually. I was going to bring that up.
Yeah. KCS got some. I mean, it's amazing some of the roads that got these. Again, as these would not be cream puffs sitting on the used car lot that were only driven to church. So yeah, it's surprising how these just kept going.
No, these were mountain engines.
Yeah.
And desert.
Definitely weathered. Yeah. Very cool. Yeah, like you said, Tony, we've got the Ohio Central. Pretty catchy little paint scheme. Really, really nice, artfully done. They clean up well after getting them from the SP. A little bit different, they've on this particular road, they've removed the gyro light nose. They've modified the L window. There's a few little details that are a little bit different. Harry, Ohio Central got these about 1995 or so. Do you know much about the Ohio Central?
Well, frankly, I don't, to be honest. By the time they left the SP, I kind of more or less lost interest, to be honest. But that's a cool paint scheme. I mean, if I had a freelance road like I used to, I'd probably go do the Microsol trick and put on my own road name instead of Ohio Central on the side and call it good. So
yeah, it's a pretty classy looking.
Yeah, I like the color break on this locomotive. It's pretty nice.
It's very nice, yeah.
If your high school is color, your college, then hey, you're set, man.
You're all set, exactly. So at this point, I want to show some of the cool pictures that Tony got from the Kevin U. Daily collection. And let me share my screen here. And I'm going to, what I'll do is I've got the notes here that you sent me, Tony, on each picture. And let's see, we'll start with this one right here. All right. So...
Yeah.
Beautiful, huh? This is now for the guys that are out there, and I saw the comment earlier. You were saying, "Hey, it'd be cool if you had a link to these actual locomotives, so we can weather them." So everything that I'm going to show you, except for one picture, is pretty much what we're offering. 8490 is going to be offered in the Ready to Roll. If you see the Ready to Roll logo up there in the corner, that means that's one of the ones we're offering in this release. Now, this picture here, this was taken in Colton, California, March 13th, 1978. And again, that's SP 8490.
Yeah,
boy,
more than a couple of weeks old, Jim.
Yeah, I mean, you can almost smell
it. 1978, that's what I call the class of 1978. SP received like over 200 new locomotives that year, and it was an awesome time to be a rail fan. I was a kid back then, and the stuff I would see out my window would blew my mind because one night I was my dad gave me a set of binoculars for Christmas one year, and And so I started using it, and I started using it at night. And the cars would go down, automobiles would roll up to the grade crossing, and I would be able to pick off the numbers because the road numbers were in Scotch-Light. They're reflective back then. So no matter, even if the SP locomotive was dirty, most of the time you could still pick off the road number. So one day, this SD40T-2 comes rolling by my window, about 2 blocks away. That's about how far we live from the tracks. And I saw 8489 go by, the first one of this locomotive class that got delivered. And I thought to myself, am I seeing what I'm seeing? It says 8489. That's SP doesn't have locomotives that high. And so I thought to myself, man, that's got to be something new. Because back then, you didn't have the internet. You'd read about a magazine half a year later, or you'd buy a power annual if you could afford it as a kid at the hobby shop that would tell you what exactly happened the past year. And so these SD40T2s in this number class, 84, 89 to 98, the first 10 have a special place in the heart for myself personally. And the 8490, definitely, we started seeing these pretty much about once a week for the first half year. It was in a really exciting time because the locomotives that arrived in 1978 for this SP, totally clean, of course, because they're brand new. But the other thing was, SP stuck not just the gyro lights on the front, like you'd normally expect for crazy SP, but also on the back.
Right.
Do that in the 50s. They stopped in the early 60s, in the mid 60s, but in 1978 they started doing it again because, as the story goes, there was a grade crossing accident in Arizona one year, and probably in '77, and the SP was running a locomotive backwards with no gyro light on the back, and of course the plaintiff said, "Hey, look, you SP people, you should have had the gyro light in the back, otherwise, and then I would have seen your train." Well, they won the case, and so SP said, "Okay, fine, we'll throw the gyro lights, the oscillating lights on the back also, just to make it." So if somebody could just stick a car on the tracks for us for the UP, maybe we'll get our gyro lights back.
Okay, so now, Kevin, this is the one you were talking about, 7342. Actually, Harry was talking about this. This is April 17th, 1982. Now, this is one of those unique paint schemes you were talking about, and I kind of like it. I kind of like this paint scheme.
You know, I do too. As a kid, I remember, though, SP was one of those roads almost like KCS at the time that was just plain white. And I can't talk, though. I grew up on the ICG that was kind of molding orange and white. But when I saw these, I remember thinking, there's no way that the SP will go to this elaborate scheme, because there were 2 or 3 of the different attempts at this, and somehow it was. And of course, then SPSF rolls in within a couple of years, and that whole Kodachrome thing looked like it was going to take over. But yeah, at the time, as neat as these were, there was just that, man, no way will the SP adopt this scheme. But boy, it is pretty cool.
Oh, I mean, those colors alone, I guess maybe it's because, as a kid seeing these colors in cold New Hampshire, the orange and the red just reminded me of a warmer climate, and everything out west just seemed to be bigger. And so you got this big locomotive like this, and painted in those cool colors. It would have been really interesting to see them, carry on through with that paint scheme.
And now this one, look at the back there of that trailing unit. Harry was talking about the light package. I mean, look at that thing. They look like bug eyes. How many different lights are there? Yeah. Unreal.
Yeah, that's why I like the SP. I mean, I go down my whole road. So yeah.
Nice classic looking picture got here. This is in Kansas back in February 24th, 1982.
Cotton Rock.
And I mean, this is one we're not offering, but it was too cool of a picture. We had to add it in here.
I think it's in. As I grabbed them, I tried to make sure they were within orders or a number or two close to what you were doing. And yes, Harry said this says it's near Harrington, and this is a Dan Schroeder picture. So this would have been what they picked up, the Rock Island from on the other side of Topeka, because the Rock went everywhere worst They never got to any of the real towns. So, like, yeah, they were coming out of Kansas City, but I think they did it, on the UP to Topeka-ish to Harrington. Then they finally get to their own tracks to Tucumcari in northeastern New Mexico, where they met up with the SP. And after the rock folds in March of 80, they call this a cotton rock, Harry, because wasn't it Cotton Belt is who assumes this. But so, yeah, this would have been fairly new SP Cotton Belt trackage, just a few years old at the time. And they spent a ton of money. I think the money they spent, they got this in the Rock Island into St. Louis from Kansas City, and they had budgeted to rebuild it from Tucumcari to St. Louis. And by the time they got to Harrington, the rock was in such bad shape they'd spent all the money. So the rock across Missouri to this day, in fact, it's now turning into a trail, and it never came back to life.
Wow. Yeah. I remember seeing, you could still see off of eBay slides of new SP power coming west. And a lot of the time they would hand it off to the Rock over in Blue Island, and they would finally come land on SP rails at Tucumcari.
You see that a lot. I don't know how Rock Island seemed to deliver some of the Rio Grande tunnel motors and all that stuff. And you always felt bad because these poor guys that were engineers for the Rock Island, if those units looked that bad on the outside, what must have been like sitting in some old U-35, and then here they get like, oh, look, the neighbors are getting a new car, and I get to drive it. Yeah.
You get one look at Silvis, and that's it.
And that's it.
Oh, that's
nice.
That's true. So here now, you guys are gonna have. I want to have all of our California listeners cringe for a minute. Now, of course, this is San Jose 8495. This is one that we're offering. Actually, no, it's in the same numbering class, but most people pronounce it San Jose. There is a town here in Illinois that is spelled the same way, and when I tell you how they say it, you're gonna cringe.
San Jose.
San Jose.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And we do that in Missouri. We've got a town south of Kansas City spelled Nevada that we call Nevada. If you live in El Dorado Springs, Missouri, it's El Dorado Springs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but the San Jose, I'd always, that from being a TP&W Santa Fe person in Central Illinois as a kid, remember that. I always thought my dad was pulling my leg. Like, isn't it San Jose? Or like you're just saying San Jose, try to make this little kid feel like you want to see if I'll say it wrong. Yeah.
I was in that town many years ago, and there was a grain elevator that had an SD parked there in the basically they mimicked the old Burlington Black Widow or Blackbird scheme. And me being a CB&Q fan, I had to go get pictures of it. And I met up with some locals, and I said, that's the first time I've ever been to San Jose. And they, no, San Jose. And when in Rome.
Exactly.
But,
I guess so.
But for everybody in this room right now. But so this is back in '87. So a little bit later, we were looking at late 70s.
Look at that. It's pretty clean.
It really is. Yeah, it's surprising how clean that is.
It looks like it's still got its class lights too, and gyro lights.
Yeah, that's right too. Yeah, you've got your class lights, your gyro lights still there, and pretty clean.
Pretty good, yeah.
Another one that's not bad either. A little bit of weathering on it, but not bad. 8496. This was 1987 as well, just a few months earlier in February of 1987.
Yeah, here they plated over the class lights, but that's later. Yep. They were delivered with class lights in 78. But that looks pretty original. I can't, Oh, and there's a 70. Looks like
this one here. This was in Denver, Colorado. This is a little bit later now. This is 1989 that they had this here. You're starting to see a little bit of wear there, a little bit of wear to it. And Harry or Tony, my eyes deceive me, but I can't tell. Has that been plated over or gyro?
Oh, no, it's all there except for the.
Okay.
Yeah, running lights are plated, but other than that, it's still pretty much as is.
That's pretty cool.
Good.
And I think Harry is the stepwells. Oh, the stepwells they started painting white at a certain point, didn't they?
It was an 80s thing. Probably about 81. I started seeing that.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that! And the original.
Isn't that nice? Boy, that's pretty clean. I mean, that looks like, exception of the snow on the front pilot and plow, that looks just like it's been washed and waxed. there's cars in our neighborhood right now that look worse than that. This was in Pueblo, Colorado, March 30th, 1975. A picture by Peter Arnold. And man, once again, that paint job, it was simple, but it sure was sharp.
Oh, it's classic. I mean,
yeah, it's kind of like Clint Eastwood of paint jobs. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, Rio Grande has so many fans, and between, I mean, their system is awesome. You know, the Moffat line, Tennessee Pass, but then the paint scheme too. And yeah, this down at Pueblo, that's a Mopac switcher sitting next to it.
Yep.
Yeah, Peter Arnold picture from the unit would have been less than a year old, and it's got the ACI plate on one of the stanchions there. It's over the G on the long hood, which I think Athearn does that. I think, or at least you have on past runs that is.
We have, yeah. Usually, it's a if you open up your box, it's usually in a little tiny Ziploc bag. Don't throw that little bag out, because sometimes we'll put those in there for you to attach, just depending on what area you're running. But yeah, absolutely. So, you know, this is actually one of the ones that we're offering in the ready to roll line. And you know, here again, let's see, what year did we say this was? Let me look at my notes here real quick. 75. So, you know, you still got your class lights. I mean, this thing is just immaculate right now. So if you're modeling Rio Grande in the 1970s, take note.
Yeah. The other thing that's unique about most of the Rio Grande 40 tunnels is that they were delivered with Mars lights as opposed to gyro lights. Mars lights had a figure 8 sweep to them. So for you guys in the decoders and programming them, make sure you set these guys to Mars and not gyro light.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's got a really unique sweep, and the M3 Nathan M3s on the top really had a great sound to them. Oh,
they did, yeah.
Yeah, I remember when Rio Grande stuff started showing up in Northern Cal, and you would know when it's grand. It was a great thing.
So here we've got one of my favorites parked there, and it looks like we got ourselves a Jeep 30 sitting there, and then right behind it is 5344, and this was taken in August of '77 by one of my favorite folks, Jim Boyd, and man, that guy got all over the country.
Oh yeah.
He was an Illinois native. He lived in New Jersey for a better part of his life, but man, he was all over the place. And here's just another one of those great pictures that he took. And again, look at the weathering. This is 5344 is one that we're offering. But man, look at it's got a little grime on it now.
Still looking good though. You know, Rio Grande kept its equipment. At least I remember this as a kid. This is 77. Think how old that Jeep 30 is. It's what, 62, 63?
62 at least, yeah.
And yet it looks pretty good for its age. So yeah, I mean, it was really until as the SP stuff kind of came in is when I remember the Rio Grande really starting to kind of take on that. Yeah, we're not going to take a bath either, just like the SP, and the stuff was all dirty.
Split was really just between, if it's local power, it tended to stay clean. But if it's just out in the grades going through the tunnels day in and day out, then it's going to get the dirt. So so 6-axle power on both the SP and the Rio Grande tended to be pretty filthy, just by rule, just as the UP is today. Cascade. You get Gevos and SD70 Aces that are just pitch black. One of my friends, Joel Ashcroft, sends me photos every now and then once he gets off work and says, well, these are my units today, and these guys are, and his locomotives are pitch black. It's just as if you'd see a filthy SP engine as the stereotype goes.
And this for 77, it's still got the MU connector is up on top of the pilot there by the drop step, which I think that goes down onto the pilot on later orders, and this still has its downturned. They've not changed the cut lever to an up, which I mean, this first order came with the turn down, but almost everything ended up getting those square box.
You get the later FRA. So that's when they got rid of the footboards. That's when you went to the what they call a loop style cut lever. It's never really a loop, except it's really a GE thing, but it's really more of an angled cut lever from above. So not till about 78, 79 you started seeing that, when the footboards started going away.
And I'm looking at the comments while we're talking about this. Terry, you are absolutely right. Jim Boyd did work for EMD for a while. And both of you guys, from your background with the magazine, Jim Boyd has a special place for you guys because he's kind of famous from not only your publisher but the previous publisher. And, Never got a chance to meet Jim, but his exploits of rail fanning are known here and wide.
Oh, I know his favorite takeout food was Taco Bell. That's one thing I definitely follow. So, but the other thing is, I did get to meet him once, and he was a trip. We met him at West Colton back in like the mid *80s. We were waiting for a westbound, and he says, "Yeah, wait here." And I said, "Well, hold on a minute. It's a freeway on ramp." And it says, "Pop your hood up. Your car is a little bit warm, isn't it?"
Yep, that sounds like Jim. I've heard those stories.
We shot the train, and we all left, and we all high-fived each other, and that was it. That was great. It was a great time. It was great to meet him. Yeah, no, he was a great guy. Unfortunately, absolutely. I didn't get to meet him right after I started working with the magazine. He had passed away, unfortunately. But the exploits of Jim are known throughout the world and the country. We got some friends here and fans that are saying, "Yep, I knew Jim Boyd. He was a friend of mine." And yeah, it's kind of neat to see his work after all these years. But back to the tunnels. Let's you've got some more good pictures here I need to share. Let's see what else we've got. Well, that's a cool. Well, it's Jim Boyd again. So Jim,
there's a whole set of these. I remember I scanned these a couple years ago, and this is another one. Peaburg, which is halfway up the Craig branch, which blew up in the '70s with coal traffic, and they ended up building like Axle and Energy spurs up there to haul more. But there's a whole slew. It's basically, you can tell this was a day that Jim went up and hit either Axle or Energy, Craig, and then followed trains back down to Bond to the main line. And there's just some amazing pictures out of that group. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just an amazing shot. You've got the beautiful backdrop of the sky and the clouds. You've got that neat, bridge / overpass there. Just a really cool shot. He had a really good eye for not only capturing the pictures that we need to base our models on, but just an artistic sense of it too. Really, really cool picture. By the way, this was in. You're right. This was in '77, so probably the same trip. And I think I got one more from Jim.
This one is neat. Before you go away on that, Jim, the model now replicates that better. You can see through that back end. You can see through the air intake, which when you guys retooled that and moved the gear tower on the rear axle forward, we now have that in the model, as opposed to, when those first came out in the early '80s, that was solid back there. And then even when it was turned into screen, you had all the gear mechanisms. So now that ready to roll model, you can set it up and look through it just like that.
Yeah, it'd be real. The only thing limiting you from doing that type of picture is you're working on your scenery. This is a real cool shot because you have a nice 3/4 above shot. You get some of that rooftop detail that we don't always get to see. Another Jim Boyd picture, also from 1977. Really cool. Looks like a calendar picture of 5353. Man, I mean, just a great picture overall.
That's at State Bridge, and I assume the bridge back there in the trees is the quote-unquote State Bridge. And that's about where right outside of Kremling going west, you go through Gore Canyon, Red Canyon, and then you come out down here. And that's about where the Dotsero cutoff connects you over to the Tennessee Pass line and into Glenwood Canyon. But this is fantastic stuff. It gets a little it's drier out here, not as green as it is up towards the Moffat. But this is some great area. And now that road, as a kid, that was a horrible gravel road. You couldn't chase trains. But the last few times I've been from like Kremling down to here, that road's good enough now that if you got a decent SUV, you can keep right up with trains.
Oh, no kidding. Wow. Last picture that you get, and boy, nothing says Rio Grande more than this picture, I think. I mean, look at the backdrop we've got to this. Certainly something we don't see here in Illinois. 5350 once again, and this one by David Johnston. This was a little bit later though. This is in October of 1985, and still looking really sharp in its original dress.
And this is up on Tennessee Pass.
Yep. Sure.
At Mitchell, eastbound set of helpers. And although we can see Rio Grande on the tunnel motor, you can see it looks like a couple of Jeep 40s that are, I would say, have been weathered too much.
They've been in helper service a little bit too long.
Yeah, no.
A little bit, huh? Yeah. Well, that's cool. Well, we're pretty excited about the ready to run 40 tunnel motors. They're something that our fans have been asking for, and this time we've offered them in everything about you can think of, from the major heavy hitters to one legendary livery to the Ohio Central. We got one more thing that we can talk about real quick, and then I'm going to let you guys take a break real quick, get a something to drink or something of that nature while we go over some news, and then we'll have you back for questions and answers. While I'm thinking of it too, I saw your question out there. We're going to talk about N scale. Tom, not this week, but stick around. I still have something to show you that is N scale related, and we do have N scale that we're offering in the pre-order this month, so don't go too far. Let me get rid of this here, and I'm going to bring up the next thing that we're going to talk about is not Dennis hopper, just covered hoppers. Everybody needs covered hoppers. So let me grab that real quick. And Tony, I think just recently we had gotten you some covered hoppers to play around with. These are in the ready to roll line. And I really like these. I've got some here that I'll show too, because for the price, they're really well detailed. They're just detailed enough so that they work well for an operations type meet or club layout or even a modular type setting, but they're not so super detailed that they break easily. And trust me, I've never had a problem with kids at a train show with my stuff. I've just had my own problems transporting it from the layout to the car is when all my problems actually come to pass. All right, here we go. So this month we're offering the PS-2, the 2600 covered hoppers. And like we've done in years past, we're offering them in these following road names, and they're all being offered in 3 different road numbers. So that way it's easy for you to go ahead and make a train. And these things are, I'm going to grab a picture so you guys can see how detailed these are. Actually, no, I don't have that picture yet. Sorry. But Tony, I think you did a review on these. It's probably been a little bit kind of hard to say. Sometimes the hours run together. But you remember when you did a review on the ready to roll covered hoppers?
I remember looking at those, and that's one of the toolings it's always been in ready to roll. But as I recall, I always felt like it, and like the 2893, there's a handful of hoppers that all of them basically, to me, are, I would almost call them borderline Genesis quality. Don't you think, Harry? There's some of these that were tooled.
Yeah, slap some trucks on there and get separate roller bearings and some cut levers, and you're pretty much there.
I mean, yeah, these are fantastic hoppers. Yeah.
Yeah, for the price, I mean, they really are. I don't have the PS2s, but I have the ACF versions. And, as I'm looking at this one here while we're talking, I mean, you've got the really nice metal etch roof walks. You've got all that brake detail. They've got the other thing, too, that we don't really talk about on the show is the weight. If you're into operations and you're pushing and pulling these things out of spurs and sidings and in industrial situations, that weight really does help. It really helps it to track well over different types of track. It's a really nice value for the price. And like Harry was saying, if you really want to, put a few detail parts on there and you're right up to Genesis quality for a little bit less. And that's why we've offered them, like you see here, in the 3 different road numbers. Now, I mean, the other thing too is we try to offer them in roads that anybody from anywhere in the United States or Canada can use. So we've got the MKT. I saw somebody out there like, oh, I love that paint scheme. We got Grand Trunk. We got Union Pacific. We've really got something for everybody out there, and I'm pretty excited about these. The other thing I like about them too is if you are into switching or a shelf layout, These things are great. They don't take up a ton of room. That's what I like about them, because I don't have a lot of room here. But if you've got like a plastics dealer or sand dealer or something of that nature, these are perfect for that. Just a good all around car to use for any type of switching layout or shelf layout, or like I was saying earlier, maybe a modular club layout. So.
And I think these get into fairly modern times, don't they, Harry? Aren't these are later, maybe mid, like that Northern Pacific is really about as old as they get, I think, isn't it? Because that would have gone out by 1970 with BN. These are not, you think of some of these little 2-bay hoppers as going back to like the late 50s, early 60s, but I think these are 100-ton there on roller bearing.
These are more 60s designs, if I remember correctly. So, I mean, the NP that you see there, even with the artwork, I can see a couple of loop plates, cot stencils on there. So that's clearly stenciled and set up for the 1970s era. I would say late 70s, that NP car with that decoration on it. That's the right era for that particular car. For the UP car, I'd say that's later even still, 80s and 90s type stuff. MKT, well, I'll let my buddy Scott comment about that. If you could just look at the loop plates, the loop stencils where the L&N is, that's a mid-70s car. The Grand Trunk looks like it's got a triple stencil. That's 1980s, 82 and up, I'd have to say, just based on the cots. So yeah, you've got a lot of possibilities there. It's although it's an older car, the schemes in this run definitely look like they're set up for 70s and 80s at the minimum. And you can run it much later than that. And you've even got the ACI label there too for the and that kind of speaks to me. I kind of feel like grabbing that one. So that looks really nice.
Some neat stuff there. Yeah, definitely. I mean, my neck of the woods, the the Grand Trunk Western would definitely be of interest. And, these things got all over the country. I mean, here in Illinois, we see these occasionally. Not in this good of condition. Believe it or not, we'll still see some Norfolk and Western equipment out here.
I had a sand dealer that was down the street from where I grew up, and they took sand cars all the time. So maybe they got a special grade from somewhere.
Exactly. Somebody was asking about N scale earlier. We will be offering N scale versions of these too. So stick around. Not next week, but the following week, we're going to talk about the N scale offerings. So we'll definitely do that. Guys, I know we've been on for about an hour, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about some new stuff coming up here. I'm going to let you guys go ahead and take a breather real quick and get a drink of water or something, probably about 5-10 minutes, and then I'm going to have you and Jack come on board. We're going to do some virtual rail fanning and take some questions. So awesome. I'll see you guys in just a little bit.
Great. All right, be back.
All right, so like I said, busy day. We got a lot of stuff going on and a lot of cool things to talk about. And I knew you guys would like listening to Harry and Tony. Harry is a true prototype modeler, writing for RMC for a number of years. And so it's always good to hear his background, especially on that Western stuff that we offer. Now, a couple of things I wanted to tell you about that's in the news. First things first, we've been talking about it for a little bit, and I know you guys have been anxious about it, but the ST60Ms, I've got one right here in Heritage 2 BNSF. These are due to hit the stores probably in another couple of weeks. We're saying about mid-March or so. Now, if you placed your pre-orders for these locomotives, they're going to be in stock, like I said, probably about mid-March. If you did not pre-order any of these locomotives, then you still have a chance to place an order with your dealer and get one of these. We've got them in the original run, Burlington Northern and the Cascade Green. And of course, we've got the really cool Heritage 2 BNSF. This was 2002 era before they went to the black and orange and swoosh in 2005. But it's a really classy locomotive with its orange and green, kind of that heritage look to it. Now, I've got some better pictures because I know it's always hard to see, somebody holding a model up to a camera. So let me see if I can get some nice pictures to show you. And I took these pictures earlier this morning. Let's see. Here we go. All right. So there it is in all of its glory. This is, like I said, this is just one of them. We're offering them in Burlington Northern, BNSF. You can go to our website and see the complete lineup for these. And like I said, these are going to be available by probably the middle of March. If you pre-order one of these, you'll probably be getting a phone call from your dealer soon. If not, and you still want one, definitely call your dealer sooner than later. Now, there's been some comments on social media, people asking about the triclops, as we call these, because of the 3 windows. People were asking about some fixes that the Athearn team had to do with the windows. So what I've done is I've shared some pictures from product development to show you that we have addressed those issues. Here's the actual picture, same locomotive that I have here on my desk. And then I think R&D provided me with the actual CAD drawing. So yeah, we do listen to you guys. We want to make sure that we're giving you a model that you're going to enjoy because of its accuracy. So there you have it. I'll go back so you can see the actual model again. Nice close up there. So again, look for these about mid-March. They're going to be available in the hobby shops about mid-March. And that is that's something to look forward to. Now, something that's in stock now are these. And again, let me minimize this real quick. These are the ACF ready to roll covered hoppers that we were talking about. We were talking about the PS2s earlier. Those are pre-order. ACFs, these are actually in stock right now. Some of them are already starting to sell out quickly. I've got the Great Northern and the Big Sky Blue. I've also got the MKT. The MKTs, there's only a few left of these. We ran these in 3 different road numbers. So contact your dealer if you did not pre-order these. Let me put some eye candy up there for you, since I'm still getting some reports. Some of you guys are having some issues with the picture quality. So here's the Great Northern in that Big Sky Blue. Like I was saying earlier, these have got the nice metal etched roof walks. You've got your grab irons are all separate. Really nice car. Metal wheel sets. They're weighted properly. Just a great car to add to your layout or your module. And here's the MKT. Same thing, same amount of details. And I mean, a lot of guys will buy these and they'll super detail them. Maybe they've got a home layout and they want to go ahead and super detail them. That's something to think about. All right. One last thing to show you is the last week, another one of our guys did a review, and I want to share that with you real quick. He did a really interesting, he's an N-scale guy. Remember I told you there was some N-scale stuff. You just had to stick around for a little bit. He's got a pretty neat layout that he's working on, and he's into operations, which is not new for model railroaders, but for N-scale, it's finally gotten to the point where you can actually do some operations a little bit easier because the technology has gotten better. I'm going to bring his channel up here. And let's see, I'll start playing it a little bit so you can, yeah, it looks like when the, there we go. So here he's talking about the, whoops, where'd it go? I apologize for all the technical difficulties we are having today. I'll tell you what, for whatever reason, that's not playing for us. I'll try one more time. If it doesn't work, we'll go ahead and give you a link. There, he will be linked on our Facebook page tonight about 6:30 or so. So let's see, is it coming up? There we go. This is Kevin Brown. This is his channel where he's talking about his waybill system, but you'll notice he's also looking at the new Athearn 53-foot bulkhead flat cars. So go ahead and check out Kevin Brown's channel. He is an N-scale guy, and he's talking about operations here. It's pretty interesting. And he usually updates a video about once a month or so. He's a smaller YouTube channel, but he's got a lot of great ideas, really neat layout. His layout's basically made out of T-track modules, but when he's at home, he connects them all together to a large yard and everything else. And he's done a really great job with it. So check out his channel. Like I said, there'll be a link to his video that's being shown here on our Facebook page tonight. And by all means, go ahead and check that out. Well, guys, what is the next thing we're going to talk about is we don't end any show without doing some virtual rail fanning. And I'm hoping you guys have got some questions. We've got a pretty good crowd here today. I'm going to go ahead and first I'm going to set up the rail cam. Since we've been talking about Southern Pacific and I'm cold, I figured we'd go to New Mexico for some rail fanning. So let me bring up the rail cam here. And you'd be thinking up of some questions that you might have for either Harry, Tony, or we'll even bring Jack back from product development and see if you guys have got some cool questions that you've just burning to ask. And let's bring up New Mexico and see if there's any action going on while we're talking. Looks pretty empty so far. Let me go ahead and make this a little bit bigger for us to see. All right, so let's bring these guys back on board. We'll start with Jack. Hey, welcome back, Jack. Can you hear us?
Yep, I can hear you crystal clear.
Excellent. Now we'll bring back Tony. We're going to squeeze in Harry.
Hey, guys.
There we go.
Ooh, I see an fuel rack.
We've got virtual rail fanning, and this is the first time I've rail fanned with this many people from different parts of the country. So at this point, what we're going to do, I don't see much going on out there. Of course, it is Tuesday, but we've got a bunch of guys here that have got questions, and I'm going to start putting some of these questions on here and letting you answer them. Guys, if you got a specific question for Tony or Harry or Jack, put that in the comments, say @Jack, and then ask your question. I'll throw it up there. We'll let these guys answer it the best that they can, and we'll go from there. So you guys ready for some questions?
Yeah.
Fire
Actually,
right.
Jim, if you don't mind, there's one thing I wanted to address. I saw it on the messages about the MKT 2600s, about the sand lettering.
Yes.
We did see that. It did get addressed, and it has been forwarded to our art team, so it will be fixed. So I just wanted to
Okay, good to know. Cool. Very cool. See, now the guys do notice. And one thing, Jack, I know, working behind the scenes, you helped me out quite a bit, actually. A lot of the pictures you see come from Tony or they come from Jack. You probably noticed that layout. And sometimes, too, Jack will help me out in social media. So if I miss something, he's right there to help us out. So, yeah, we're watching. And if you've got questions that we don't catch, also remember that email that we have at contactusonathearn.com, and somebody will get back to you. So there's some great stuff here, and I'm trying to figure out who to put up first. We get our typical, Harry, since this is probably your first time here, we get our weekly requests. We've got our weekly request for a legendary livery ES44AC in the purple and silver Atlantic Coastline colors. That would be different. Let's see.
Ooh, Amtrak California cars. I see one.
Uh-huh.
Hello?
Here's one that looks like it's probably directed more towards Jack. I'm going to throw it up there. Any possibility of some Cleveland Electric GP38-2s for a tooling project, some modern aggregate hoppers like those built by Freight Car America? Man, there's some questions for you, Jack.
Well, I don't mean to burst anyone's bubble, but I work on projects that have already been tooled. So any new tooling projects would be addressed to Janik. But I work on stuff that's already been tooled. So, but I'm not saying that it's not a possibility. So,
Speaking
We've
of
got
that,
our weekly request.
when Jim got cut off because of his Wi-Fi for a bit, and Jack, you said you work on projects that are already tooled.
Yes,
I
sir.
went ahead and I announced there's going to be, I want a Genesis 2.0, the little Hustler switcher.
Mm.
Now, Harry,
Yeah,
and
and
CBA
Harry didn't
See-through
want
steps.
to, but
I'm into that. See-through steps on the Hustler.
see,
well, if Joel was on there, he'd want working Sanders. So
Yeah,
okay,
he
okay.
does. He's working,
Yeah,
especially working standards right now. He
We haven't seen Joel. Well, also too, I haven't.
right now.
I've missed the nachos comment too. Maybe it was there earlier, but we need to get the weekly request for nachos.
And nachos. He has nachos, he says.
oh, okay.
So we just got to go find him up in the Cascade somewhere.
Somewhere. Let's see. I had something here. Oh, wow. This is a request, Tom. I'm going to throw it up there because I feel for you, fellow N-scale guy. Man, I can't promise anything, but I'll throw it up there. Tom wants an N-scale CF7. Wow. That would be pretty cool. Man, that would take quite a bit of tooling. So I'm not going to promise anything to you, but I figured I'd throw that up there because that's a pretty cool request.
Mm-hmm.
And there's
I'm trying to
Kevin
think if that
for
was
us.
ever done. I don't know if that was ever maybe Hallmark and brass and in scale.
You know, I can't think of it either, Tony.
Yeah, that might be the, I don't. Yeah, that's a tough one. Yeah.
Ooh, surfliners and California cars.
Yeah,
Yeah, I get to do this
California
one.
and surfliners. Here's I just saw it too.
What?
We had a request and it was perfect and I've lost it. The feed was going too fast. While I'm looking for some good questions, Harry, tell us, when you're not working for the magazine, do you work on one of your layouts? Are you part of a club? What do you do as far as model railroading outside of
Well, what do I do the rest of this time? Pretty much hang out in Microsoft Word and compose. I write a lot, whether it be a product review, whether it be something for Craftsman, whether it be something I'm doing for other things. But as far as modeling is concerned, I do have a few things on the workbench. A couple of them actually happen to be Athearn projects right now. Athearn many years ago inherited the Rail Power Products line of diesel shells. And that was probably about 20 years ago. I've had a set of Jeep 40Xs, which have been my all-time favorite EMD hood units. And they've been sitting on the edge of my workbench for about a dozen years. I had realized it was like, shoot, how long has that thing been on the edge of my workbench? So I grabbed it about a month ago, and I started working on it. And that's my current project right now, is a set of SP Jeep 40Xs that I'm basically touching up the details. I'm not doing a full repaint. It's not a Genesis model, so I'm not going to go crazy with it. But I'm getting crazy enough. I'm repowering it, getting a nicer motor for it, a set of Kato motors for the set of 4 that I've got. Milled the frame to accommodate the motor and some extra details. Cannon air reservoirs, blah blah blah. It just kind of goes on. It's kind of a slippery slope, as Dave Hussey says. Once you start fixing one thing, you fix the next thing, and the next thing you got to go, well, all this looks great now, then I got to go fix something else, and so it's kind of cascading, but it's a great project. So
Welcome to model railroading.
Oh yeah. No, I've been at it for a while, believe me. So yeah. But
Jack and Harry,
it's great.
Jack and Harry, I got a question for you. This is probably in your wheelhouse because it's
Sure.
SP related. But Brian wants to know how difficult would it be to make the Caltran GP9 since all 3 were ex-SP units? And I'll let you guys go on that one.
Well, Jack, I'll let you hit that first, or you want me to?
One of the difficult things with something like that is it's extremely regional. So it would have to be a good collective amount of people that modeled Caltrain in that time frame to do it.
I think, we have a pretty big shop out here in the Bay Area that can move a lot. I kind of think of them as Costco of hobby shops in Northern California. And I think Caltrain Jeep9s would sell well. You've got all the tooling you need already. You've already got the Gyrolite blanks. You've already got the proper Jeep9 hood for SP Jeep9s with the with the number board access doors. You've got the fans, you've got the frame, you've got everything. So if you need shots, I know where to get some.
Yep, and I have a friend of mine who used to be actually an engineer with Caltrain and has a whole bunch of photos of him as well.
Yeah,
so,
I think that might be the same person. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, Frank. Yeah.
Yeah, he's running.
Yep. So, but yeah, I would definitely, if you guys really would like them, please request them on the link. I think Jim, you remember the link name to that, but yeah, go ahead and request them. If we get enough requests, then sure.
I think you can move a lot. I'd say talk to Dennis at the train shop out here in Santa Clara. He placed a pretty big order for him. That might already justify your run right there.
Sounds good to me.
Asking for it.
So, Brian, to answer your question, it sounds like you've made more work for Janik and the guys at Athearn. So do us a favor. Go to our website, athearn.com, go to contact us, go to product suggestions, it's an email, and put in exactly what you put in for us, because here's a great, if we get enough requests for that type of setup, we'll probably end up doing it. And you'll just be here on a Train Tuesday seeing your units that you requested. So by all means, this is why it's great to have the guys from product development here kind of let us know, yeah, that can be done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and tooling I know is a big issue. So as long as we have the tooling for it, just about anything is possible.
Yep, I would say no need tooling in that guy.
Yep.
Very cool. It's gone now, but Tony, this one was for you, and it was basically a thumbs up on the Genesis 2.0 switcher. Your little, what was it called again?
Remember the little Hustler switcher that Athearn did?
Hustler, yeah. My only comment on that is it has to be in the CB&Q non-switcher scheme, so it has to be Chinese red and gray. If we're gonna do that in Genesis.
Road unit.
Yeah, I think the only road name it ever had was it only ever had Rio Grande. I think there was like silver, black, yellow, red with like chevrons on the. Yeah, Rio Grande was its only road name, but man, what a classic! Where is that tooling, Jack? I would just like to see the molds for that board.
Yeah, as I would I.
Here's one from for you, Jack, and I know we're currently working on stuff like this. Let me get Hugo's question up for you. Jackie wants to know if we're going to do any Santa Fe Prime for Grime -9s in the future. Have you heard anything about that?
Something similar, but I think that's about all I can say.
Yeah.
But I would wait next. Yeah, very soon. Think very soon. There's something similar to that coming around. So just keep an eye out.
I think next month maybe or so.
Maybe. Yeah.
We'll see.
Well, we'll have to see.
Keep them coming back. Also, that Thomas is joking with us too. He says that Hustler has to have rubber band drive with DCC, and I'm going to put sound in there too. Oh. You gotta have that.
Could you imagine though? That thing would be whisper quiet though.
Wouldn't it? It really would. Let's see. Wow. There's a lot of people that really like that little Hustler. That's kind of funny. I'm looking at the comments here, and
I was trying to, and we did. Cool. There is an HO collector that has a whole article. In fact, the gold. There was a just gold painted Hustler that Athearn offered at one time. I think that's maybe on the cover of that issue. So if you go to shop.whiteriverproductions.com, then look for HO Collector. I don't think it's out of print. There's some of them are now, but there's a whole issue on the Hustler where I even talk about like the Cox version made in the early 70s that was given a gear drive because all the Athearns were rubber band, but it's a neat little model, or it's a classic model.
Classic, definitely.
Very classic, yeah.
Classic, yeah.
So Terry's always here every week. We appreciate Terry showing up. He's like, "What's with all the secrecy about the new releases?" And, it's not releases. It's just, we got to be careful about what we say. Now, I can tell you that next week I'm going to bring in something. So I think you'll like that. Sometimes, though, when I try to say something, I don't know if it's the government or what cuts me off. But no, we can't give away all of our secrets at once. But Terry, trust me, we've got some stuff that you're gonna like. All joking aside.
And it's tough. I'm sure you run into the same things that we do with the magazine, is that I'll have things lined up with reviewers, or I'm sure like, we're going to go with this theme for this month, and I've got this, and this, and then something amazing gets announced, or we run into an issue that a reviewer doesn't get it. There's so many factors that you can say, well, this is the plan for the rest of the year, but check with me in December, and I'll go, well, that didn't happen, and then I move this to this, and I mean, again, it's like anything. I mean, who doesn't make plans that I'm going to go do this or that today? What did you really end up doing? Well, see, this happened, and then the mail delivered this, and then I had this I forgot I had to do. So there's a lot to it as far as, well, we can't just tell you. It's like, well, a lot of things juggling, I'm sure.
Sometimes too, and I mean, I think Jack will have some good background on this. Sometimes too, when we're working with the actual railroad, when we were doing the SD70 ACUs, we were working very closely with CP Rail, and sometimes there's stuff that happens on the real, the full-scale railroad, the prototype, that we're all set to go. We're ready to pull the trigger, and something's going on there. And Jack, has that run into you with any research that you've been doing? Where you?
Oh yeah, yeah. The Grand Trunk SD70 Aces. That just. Yeah, Janik and I were talking about it. That came across our feed, and we're like, "Oh man, we've got to find some way of including that now." So yeah, stuff like that does sometimes just come out of the blue, pun intended.
Right. Well, that was true with the Aces this month too. We were not originally, we knew about the Montana Rail Link, special paint scheme for the essential workers, but it was one of those things. It was so new. We had planned that locomotive a while back, but we knew we just couldn't not do it. And so far, the response on that has been really, really good.
And that's a really neat paint scheme. I mean, it's such an eye catcher. You got to do it. You got to do it.
And I'm seeing some comments out there, guys, while I'm talking with everybody about the beat cars. Just know that that was not a decision that was easy to make, but we didn't want to pass that price increase on to you. Now, we're hoping in the future maybe we can do something there, but we're looking into it. But don't think that we just, we're not going to do that. It was one of those things where we just could not honestly produce that and put that big of a price increase on you guys. But we haven't abandoned anything. We're still looking at possibilities. I saw a paint scheme question for you here too while I was talking about that. And it looked like it was for Jack. Let me see if I can find that. Oh, here we go. I think this is more of a comment, but it would be kind of cool. Tom is asking, waiting for the BC Rail -9s and Genesis. That's going to be coming out. We did those. We talked about those back in August? Those should be coming out in July. And then he's also looking for 70M-2s, GTW, and Genesis, the ones that are you talking about the Heritage one that we just did? Because you've got about, I think we're going to release those in December. We talked about them a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
And let's see. Jack and Harry, you brought out all the SP fans.
Yeah, you know what? I've got a few images to share with you guys. If you can give me a shot to try to do that. I don't know how to share.
Yeah, let me minimize this.
Let me just click on share. Oh, I can do share screen. And I'll bring this up. Oh, here, hang on. And So here's one of the 8200s in the Roseville repaint scheme, and that's one of the road numbers you guys are doing. Can you guys see that?
No, not
Nothing
seeing it
yet.
on mine.
Oh, okay, hang on. Okay, oh wait, there we go. Let's see here. Let's see. Ah, got it. Okay, hang on.
Oh,
How's
here
that?
we go.
Yeah, that's
There we go.
one of the Roseville repaints I was talking about.
Mhm.
Very
You
nice.
guys were talking about earlier. And here's a nice shot by my friend Rob, who shot it. Looks like probably in Roseville. Looks like, judging by the phone poles. And we'll bring up another one here.
Man, look at that unit behind it.
Yeah, that thing is
Nice and
toast.
grimy. Yeah.
It's another 8200 that hasn't seen the paint shop yet and hasn't seen the wash rack in a few years. So that's one for you. Let me share another one here. And let's do another share screen, share my entire screen. That'll be easier. Okay, and before I bring that up,
Whoa, that's trippy, man.
here's sorry, you're gonna go get a. Here you go. So here's the 8299 in basically pretty trashed appearance, but that's what people think of the SP in the 1990s, and well, yeah, that's pretty much what it was after nobody, when things got tough. Here's the 8497 on a better day. Now, you think the Southern Pacific is a Western railroad? Well, sure, but we have pooling agreements with a number of different railroads, and that includes the B&O and the Chessie system. So here's one in Connellsville, Pennsylvania, in a Chessie consist, somewhere back east. So this is the 8497, which is part of the new announcement this year, or then the run we talked about. And here's 8497 in Tucson in 1985. Still looking pretty clean with a little bit of grime and dirt along the bottom edge. And about a year old, Roseville. Bob Denkler shot this out west in Roseville, Northern California. And I have one more image that I wanted to share with you guys. Here's the 8494. Now, you might think, oh, it's just another SD40 tunnel motor. But that first order of short-nosed or 88-inch nosed SD40 tunnel motors on the SP was the only order of 88-inch nosed tunnel motors on the SP to get full rear snow plows. 45 tunnel motors, all SP 45 tunnel motors had that big plow in the back. But as far as the short-nosed SD40T-2s, the 84, 89, and 98 were the only ones to receive that, along with, of course, the big gyro-like package out back that most all of the SD40T-2s received. So that's a key difference, and Athearn caught that, and hopefully we'll be seeing that in the model.
Yep.
And here's a quick one for you. This one's for Jack.
Oh, cool.
7771, which is the SP, or the Cotton Belt's only cabless B36-7. It was wrecked in Texas, and it was rebuilt at Taylor shops in Los Angeles in the early 80s. And they did a fantastic job on it. It looks just like as if GE had produced it. In fact, GE had produced some 12-cylinder ones, about 120 12-cylinder ones for the Burlington Northern about the same time. And supposedly they worked a little bit with GE with it, but as far as I can tell, the guys down in LA did a great job at Taylor Yard. And my parting shot is, well, a bunch of Jeep 40-2s that Athearn has since produced, along with the B36-7, leaving Warm Springs or Fremont that one year. For being a single one of 2,500 locomotives on the SP, that thing came into the neighborhood a lot, as far as I'm concerned. And this thing's supposed to be based out in the Cotton Rock somewhere, so on the mountain Pine Bluff. But hey, got out to California quite a few times. So there it is. Yeah. Now I wish you guys would do Southern Pacific Jeep 40-2s in 7608 to 7627. It's the only series you guys haven't done yet, other than the Slug Mothers. But anyway, just the 2 cents there.
No, Harry, we actually got a lot of requests for that, so that might be in an upcoming run, possibly.
Good. 7608 to 27 was the only release that was the first order of Jeep 40-2s for SP. And what's significant about it was when I went to a hobby shop that one year, the shop owner told me that SP was getting Jeep 40-2s. And I was like, no, they don't get Jeep 40-2s. They never have Jeep 40-2s. Well, here you go. They broke the rules in 78. That's why I like 78 so much. And that's actually the era that I start to model. So good stuff.
Very cool.
Hopefully you guys will look forward to it.
Yep.
Anyway.
Definitely.
That's what I ended up with after our last week, Jim. Yeah, I went to Midwest Model Railroad I think it was the next day after we train Tuesday.
Oh, yeah.
This Jeep 40-2 there that day. And I got, I've never put a decoder in one of the new 21-pin sockets. I guess I've always gotten, the DCC sound, or it's been so long since I did that. So I've got a decoder that I'm going to put in it as part of that review, but I've got pictures of the prototype front, back, all that up on modelrailroadnews.com.
Nice.
Pictures of the 40-2, both the model and that, and it'll be coming up in print in this spring, summer sometime.
Yeah, I remember those things coming into town. I really love that scheme.
Yeah. And yeah. I didn't realize, Harry, but the stuff I read, again, I think Diesel Era said that this is the first time this version of Perlman Green was offered with the solid nose on a as delivered new power. There was.
Yeah, I think that's about right, because it was a repaint prior to that. For new power showing up with that paint scheme, yeah, that's about right.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
What road number is that? I can't see it, Tony.
Got 3557.
Nice. Those are my favorites with the gyro light right there in the nose.
And now I looked at this, they had 2 orders of them, and I thought the first order came without lights, but then looking through Kevin's slides, I do find some pictures still in Western Pacific paint where the gyro lights on units that number-wise say they're in the first order. Did they retrofit any?
I think, I'm not a WP fan, but I believe there was probably one locomotive that did receive it like that. That got retrofitted, but the majority of them never had.
I didn't think they did either.
Plain nose, the 35, I think it was like 3545 to 49. 45 to 48 or 45 to 49 had no gyro light in the nose, but just like what you showed there, Tony, were the later ones, like you said, the second one.
It came that way. Yeah, so that's what tripped me up as I was going through pictures. Suddenly I found, and again, as you always do, I find the one unit that's from the first order with no nose light, but there it is with the nose light. It's like, so Jack, we feel for you in what it's like. Oh, come on.
Well, what's funny is when we do research and I'm looking at different parts, and the Jeep 40-2 is a good example, and we have like 20 different noses to use. Different styles and lengths and headlight configurations, and yeah, it becomes a head scratcher after a while.
Yeah.
Tom's got a question for us. He wants to know when the new UP Heritage units come out. So, Tom, that is the pre-order for this month. We're offering 3 of the UP Heritage units, and you can pre-order those right now. They will be out next January. But if you, and keep in mind too, Tom, these are the updated, these aren't the original units, but in 2015, if I remember right, they kind of refreshed those. They repainted them. So these are based on those Heritage units. And go ahead and go to athearn.com and go to our new announcements tab and scroll down. You'll see those units, and you can get with your dealer now and order those and have them in time for next year. So don't miss out on those. They were heavily requested. Did you get to work on that project, Jack?
On the Jeep 40-2s, yes.
No,
that was actually
sorry. The Heritage units, UP.
Oh no. I'll work on it if I'm asked to. I'm not gonna lie, but I am not a UP fan. So, but no, I believe Janik worked on those. So, also, I just want to let you know, Jim, I got to get going. So, I really appreciate you letting me come up and talk.
Definitely.
It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, we are reaching that times about 5:30, so I think it's a good time to, as we say in the industry, man, somebody lost their clothing there. I don't know. Must be warmer out there than it is here. But I think it's about time to pull the pin on this episode. I want to thank Jack from Product Development for coming with us today and giving us some cool insight about what it takes to get those, those ideas to go from ideas to this. And, my wife doesn't thank you though, Jack, but the development team over there.
I'm in the same boat, my friend. I'm in the same boat.
So thanks for coming on board, Harry. It was great having you on board too, with your knowledge of everything prototype. And thanks for coming on board. And Tony, the only thing I can say to you is I'm sorry about Sunday, and 12 is my favorite number.
It was not a good one. There's not enough barbecue in town. Yeah.
Everybody out there that's been out there, thanks for putting up with some of the technical difficulties this week. We apologize for that. But thanks for coming on board. Thanks for sharing your time with us and asking us some great questions. We'll be back next week, same time, same channel, 3:30 p.m. Central Standard Time for more Train Tuesday. Until next week, I want you all to be happy, be healthy, be safe, and above all, high greens, everybody. Take care.
Bye.
See you guys. Have a good one.
Later.